Okay, here we go. Hi everyone, welcome to our Get Healthy program. This is week 1. We're going to be reviewing some really critical information, and we have lovely participants on the line tonight, so we're going to make this quite interactive. So why do diets work? Why don't diets work? So that's my question to the three of you. Why don't diets work?
Diet is die with a TS on the end. As I say diet, then I feel like I'm being deprived and I end up eating more than I would normally if I wasn't on a diet. I don't know, there's some sort of mental thing that happens.
Yep, that's a good explanation of what the psychology of dieting is. You feel noble but deprived. Diets are a short-term solution for a long-term problem. They are not balanced. Most diets aren't balanced. And the latest craze now is the keto diet, which is not balanced. It's too much protein and fat and not enough carbs. It's just not a balanced way to eat. And few of the diets really tackle the core issue of insulin insensitivity. Now, the keto diet probably does, because it's just really high protein, so it's very low glycemic. But the problem is it's not balanced. We need carbs, proteins, fats, and fiber in a balanced fashion. So the good news is the Get Healthy program is not a diet. So Adeline, it's not a diet, which is great because it's all about eating healthy, nourishing your body, feeding your body, and then exercising your body, giving it the proper nutrition, and loving your body. It's not something that you're going to go on or off. This is something that's going to be long-term sustainable. And so let's just talk about insulin insensitivity and what that means. Well, Dr. Jenkins, who in the 1980s, started the aerobic craze, but also realized that not all carbs were created the same. And he created a glycemic index, where he rated carbohydrates, and the rating system basically determined how quick a carbohydrate would be digested, broken down into sugar, and release that sugar into your blood system. So anything above 60, so whenever you're looking at the glycemic index of food, anything above 60 is high glycemic, 60 to 40 is moderate, and below 40 is low. So during the next basically 11 weeks, we really want to focus on eating low glycemic foods, and I'll explain why shortly. So just take a look at this. So things like glucose is 100, that's the highest rating. Baked potatoes, any potatoes are super high glycemic. Any processed cereals are super high glycemic. Any bread, other than maybe the sprouted wheat breads, are very high glycemic. Then what we have here, apples and peaches, and most fruit is low glycemic because its natural sugar is fructose. Fructose is a very low glycemic sugar because it has to be processed through the liver first. All beans and legumes are low glycemic. So when you look at this, look where table sugar is. It's kind of in the middle. It's at 61. Now, isn't that fascinating that baked like potatoes and rice and cornflakes are all higher glycemic than table sugar?
Yeah, that's weird.
Isn't it?
I read that depends on the age of the potato as well. Like young potatoes are better than mature, like a good baking potato, a big russet, a big or the other type of baking potato. So if they're young potatoes, they haven't developed the starch as much, so they're less glycemic.
You're right. Yeah, so if you dig them out of your garden in the summer, wash them off and eat them right away, they will be lower glycemic. Yes. Yeah, now, does anyone know why table sugar is moderate?
Isn't table sugar a mix of fructose and something else? Is it the glucose?
Yeah.
But it's a mix of two sugars, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a combination of glucose and fructose. And glucose is really high, fructose is really low. So you combine them, you get it's right in the middle. So, yeah, so I always found that quite fascinating. And the point is, we think of sugar like, ooh, I eat sugar and it's going to just, my blood sugars are going to soar. But, if you have a piece of white bread with with some jam on it is actually going to make your blood sugar spike faster. So this is summarizes it. Bread, rice, cereals, and potatoes actually spike your blood sugar faster than if you were eating table sugar. And I think that's just mind-blowing. It just kind of makes you realize, like, wow, like, what are these foods doing to your blood sugar? And 85 to 90% of carbohydrates that adults and children consume in the US and Canada are considered to be high glycemic. And I saw on the news today, the millennials are way, way heavier than the baby boomers ever were, or even Gen X. And because of that, the cancer rate is going up in the millennials. Cancers that are dependent on amount of fat that one is carrying, like pancreatic cancers up. So things that are dependent on, how much, I guess, how heavy you are, those cancers are on the rise. So this is all about eating healthy so that we reduce not only our fat that we're carrying around, but we're also reducing our risk of cancer and other health problems. So this graph is one of my favorite graphs. And can anyone describe what happens when you eat a high glycemic meal?
Your blood sugar spike.
Right. So if you look at the picture, right here, let's say that's the morning when you get started. If you have, let's say we go through Tim Hortons, get our coffee, our double-double, our muffin. Of course, it's a healthy muffin, right? When we eat that, our blood sugars are going to soar. Now, why is that a concern to the body if our blood sugars are high?
Develop insulin resistance.
Yeah, that'll lead to insulin resistance.
Your insulin kicks in and it says, I don't want that high of a sugar, so your pancreas is working overtime making insulin, and
Right.
then it makes so much that then you plummet down to the bottom.
Right.
And you go for a crash.
Right, down here, yes. So when your blood sugars are very high, it causes an inflammation in your arteries, which eventually will lead to plaque buildup, and your risk of heart disease and stroke go up dramatically. So the body does what it can to control that blood sugar. So you're right, Adeline, when your pancreas pumps out so much insulin, then your blood sugars drop. And then what happens when your blood sugar drops below the healthy line? What happens? How do you feel?
Like I'm just a slug. Just like, okay, well, I need more coffee to get going. This was way back when, I need a muffin. I need something to eat to, get back moving again. So it was
Right.
like a constant up and down throughout the whole day.
Right. Right. So when your blood sugars drop too low, like you may even find you can't think because your brain runs on glucose. You may find that you're not able to think. You might even break out in a cold sweat. You might even want to faint. So that's when this uncontrollable hunger kicks in, like you said, and then you go for a muffin or another high glycemic food, and you start the roller coaster ride again. So by the end of the day, generally, how do you feel if you're eating this way?
At the end of the day, I was done. Like I had no energy for anything. I was just done.
Mm-hmm.
So I just come home and just crash on the couch, and no real inclination or drive to do much of anything after that.
Right, because your body's just been through a tremendous workout. So that's a perfect example of how people feel. Like most of the time when I talk to people, young and old, they all complain about lack of energy, and it's from the type of foods that they're eating. They're not, and it's causing the situation. Now, when we eat low glycemic, does anyone want to talk a little bit more about when we eat low glycemic, what happens?
Well, your blood sugar stays at more of a constant level. And then, of course, your performance during the day is going to be better. You're going to be more alert. You're not going to have these high spikes and lows that they also would strain the body, of course. And yeah, you're gonna feel a lot better if your blood sugar stays more at an even level.
Exactly. And everything that you eat will then be burned off as energy versus storing it as fat. Because when we're eating the high glycemic foods and the insulin takes the sugar out of the blood, what does it do with the sugar?
Well, it stores it as turns into fat.
Right. So that's where you're kind of like everything you eat is turning into fat when you're eating high glycemic foods. But when you're eating low glycemic foods, you're actually burning off that energy for activity. So then at the end of the day, you actually feel still like you have a lot of energy. So uncontrollable hunger. So these type of foods will lead to uncontrollable hunger, because it's going to send you on that roller coaster ride of high sugar, low sugar, high sugar, low sugar. And so most of us, if you think when you get stressed, these are kind of what we also refer to as our comfort foods, right? You know, the pasta and the cereals and rice and pancakes, but they are going to lead to having more and more hunger. Like your hunger will increase and you'll want to eat more and more and more and more, and it will continue to create this problem until you hit the insulin sensitivity. So what happens over time, individuals simply become less and less sensitive to their own insulin, and the body compensates for this situation by making more and more insulin, which is your fat storage hormone. So if you have more fat storage hormone, what does your body do? It stores more fat. And that's when a calorie no longer becomes a calorie. And you tip into this abnormal metabolic state. And now all of you probably could think back to a time when this might have happened, when maybe it might have been a traumatic event in your life that caused you to eat more high glycemic foods, that caused this abnormal metabolic state. It could have been one winter, all of a sudden you put 10 pounds on. Can any of you think of a time when this might have happened in your life?
Oh, wasn't that long ago. Yeah, I just couldn't understand why I kept gaining weight, and it just seemed to skyrocket out of control.
It's happened my whole life, ever since probably 12 years old for me, off and on. I'm a carbohydrate addict. So I don't know why since 12, because up until I was 12, I was like a skinny little runt. And yeah, I don't know. Lots of things, I guess. I don't know I don't know. It's hard to even explain.
Now that you asked the question, Sheila, because like I grew up on a farm, which was very active. And then when I first started working, I had a very active job. But once I got, ahead in the promotions and I had, a desk job and became a supervisor, and then it was budget reports and, and all those kinds of gnaws, I found I wasn't active. There was lots of overtime and sort of like, oh, well, the canteen is closed. I'll just hit the vending machine. So it became pops and chips. And that's where I noticed that's where I really kind of went over there, because after years of, living on pops and chips, a lot.
Yeah, we could all think back. And for me, it's really in the last 4 years when I've hit menopause. So hormones have a huge thing to play. Like Joanne, when you hit 12, your hormones changed.
Yeah.
And for me, it's since I've hit menopause, it's, 10 pounds have creeped on. They're really, and I'm probably eating not much different than I did 5 years ago. But again, hormones have a lot to do with it. So can I use it as an excuse? I could, but I'm not going to, because it's just meaning that what happens when you hit menopause, your insulin levels naturally start going up. As your estrogen, progesterone drops, your insulin goes up, and the body does that because the body wants to gain more fat to protect the bones. Because once you hit menopause, you start losing bone density. So the body wants to protect the bones, so it wants to put a little layer of cushioning on in case you slip and fall.
Wow.
Yeah. Isn't that mind-blowing? So it's like,
Yeah, that's what it was for me too, I think. Just, I was kind of feeling that, you know, the health professionals were saying, well, you're just old now, so that's natural. They thought 10 pounds every year, like that's natural. And I just said, well, I've always been skinny my whole life. This isn't natural for me.
yeah. So that's what, so if we're not really, really, really sticking with eating low glycemic and exercising enough, you know, our insulin levels will be higher than when we were before menopause. So muscles become insulin sensitive first. So if we're not exercising enough, the muscles will become insensitive first. And then the calories are diverted to the fat cells, you got it, around the abdomen. And that's why we get middle-age spread, because our insulin levels are creeping up and we're not active enough to compensate. So if you have high insulin levels, your fat storage hormone, guess what? Your body's holding on to fat like a sponge holds on to water. So this is the reality of when we get to this stage of life. But that doesn't mean we can't do something about it. So insulin is your storage hormone. It drives or transports sugar into the cell to utilize as energy or store it as glycogen or fat. So when your body becomes less sensitive to its own insulin, it compensates by making more and more insulin. And as blood insulin levels rise, you literally tip over to this abnormal metabolic state. So that's where on and off throughout our life, we have tipped over into this abnormal metabolic state. So what causes it? Inactivity and insulin sensitivity. We become rounder in the middle.
Or behind.
Or behind, or all around. So what can we
Under
do
the
then?
arms, around the back, everywhere.
Now, the problem is, I mean, we can just, you know, sort of say, well, you know, we're a little older, so what, we got an extra 10, 20 pounds. But the problem is, what this graph shows is if we don't do something about it, it's this insulin sensitivity leads to diabetes. So it's for our health, it's really, really important to reverse the insulin sensitivity and reverse the risk of diabetes. Because my mother-in-law had diabetes the last probably 6 years of her life, and it wasn't pretty. It was awful. At the end, we were amputating her legs, and it was just awful. Awful, awful, awful. And it led, first of all, to her diabetes led to a stroke. Then she was hospitalized, and then she wasn't active enough, and then she got a gangrene, and it was just, and the food they were feeding her at the nursing home was high glycemic. It was like, oh man, this is just terrible. Anyway, so the good news is we could do something about it. And that's what this Get Healthy program. And another point, the Get Healthy program isn't just for overweight, insulin sensitive people. I had one person I reached out to on Facebook who is underweight, does not have a healthy lifestyle, and wants to get on the program in March. Because this is just a healthy way to eat. This other woman smokes all the time and eats one meal a day. And she's not feeling great. She's not exercising. She's not eating. When she does eat, it's not very good quality food. And you can't live on cigarettes and coffee. You're not going to be healthy that way. You may be skinny, but you're not going to be healthy. So
the body's starving.
Yes. So for those of us, when we're out there as distributors looking for people to help, we can also use the Get Healthy program to help people who are underweight and don't have good lifestyle habits. There's actually another woman in Beausejour who's always has been underweight. And you look at her and you think, wow, she looks so great, twiggy, skinny. Well, she went to her doctor and she's horribly out of shape. She has no cardiovascular system because she's so inactive. She just doesn't eat. So now they have her actually walking, like a short walk, maybe a quarter-mile walk. And she says she's winded just from walking once around the block. If she can barely do that. And so just because people are thin doesn't mean they're healthy. So that was the point with that story. So what is the 4 parts to this program? First of all, it's healthy diet. And we're going to use the USANA foods as healthy fast food to get us started. They're all low glycemic. Modest exercise, we're going to talk about that today, nutritional supplements, and education and accountability. So boot camp is the 5-day reset. That's our boot camp. That's what's going to get us started. It's 5 days, and Joanne, you stuck with it and you lost 5 pounds. That is amazing. And you broke the carb addiction. So you should be craving less carbs at this point.
Yeah, I am.
Great. So that's and people who don't do the reset to start with really struggle with the carb addiction. So I recommend, if you're going to do this, stick with it, do the 5 days, get it done, and break the carb addiction. And also in 4 days, you're going to shrink your stomach. So in 4 days, your stomach will actually be smaller and you'll be craving less food. So then what we do is we go into the USANA Nutri-Meals. There's the French vanilla, there's the chocolate, there's Nutri-Meal free, or we can do the My Smart Foods. Do Adeline and Joanne, and do you and Wendy, do you use the Nutri-Meals or do you use My Smart Foods?
I use the Nutri-Meals because that's what I have.
Okay.
I use a combination of both. I'll put a scoop of this and a scoop of that, and then put some another scoop, a whole scoop of protein during the day when I drink. Now I'm going to go down to 2 shakes a day, so that's what I'll be putting in it. And then a half a shake at night, I'll put 1 whole scoop of Fibergy in it. But I do a combination of both, of the My Smart and the Nutri-Meal, and the Nutri-Meal free. I just kind of mix them all together.
Okay, so you change it up, mix them together.
Yeah.
I like My Smart Whey shakes a lot. I usually add spinach and pineapple to them because I really kind of like that combination. If I'm really in a rush, I'll use the Nutri-Meal. So I find them just, shake and go, right, instead of blend with a blender.
Yeah.
I'm going to do a combination as well. Okay.
Right now I just been shaking and going, and then I heat it in the microwave because I can't take a cold shake now this time of year.
Oh, you heat it in the microwave.
I just shake mine in my shaker bottle. I haven't used my blender all winter, and I've just been using vanilla and chocolate alternating. And then I just pour it in my mug and I heat it in the microwave till it's like about 3 minutes. It's delicious.
Never thought of it. It's like a hot chocolate then.
It's like a hot chocolate or a hot vanilla drink, yeah.
What a cool idea.
It's to die for.
Wow. Well, I'm going to try that because especially with the chocolate, that would be really yummy.
Yeah, they're both good. I was kind of hesitant on the vanilla, but actually I enjoy the vanilla hot better than the chocolate. They're both good, mind you, but just this time of year I have a hard time to drink enough water and to get a cold shake down. It's hard.
Okay.
So I'm trying to drink my water a little, like not on the warm side, but just like room temperature. And my shakes, I like to have them hot now.
Okay. Hey, that's something I haven't tried. So thanks for that tip, Joanne. That's fantastic. Yeah. All right. So what do we do after reset? Well, you go to 2 USANA meal replacement shakes, either My Smart Shakes or the Nutri-Meal. And I like all the tips, Joanne, that you're giving about the extra fiber and the extra protein. Then we go to 2 low glycemic snacks. Now I have a big announcement, everyone. The microbiome bar will be available in Canada February 25th.
Yeah, woo, that's good. They already got it in the U.S.
Yeah. And Wendy, you and I, we know how tasty
we know. We were taste testers at convention.
So the
one,
the biome, the new bar, that's kind of like a snack.
Well, they're advertising it as a snack, but between you and I say it could be actually a meal because it's about 250 calories, which is about a meal worth of calories. It has protein in, it has prebiotics and probiotics in it to feed the microbiome in your gut. So I will probably, and it was a pretty big bar. Remember that, Wendy? It was very satisfying.
It was quite substantial.
Yes. Yes. So I pulled off the specs, And it's safe to eat during pregnancy. It's great to give to teens and children. They recommend you, if you have a whole bar, if it upsets your stomach, start with a half a bar because there's a lot of fiber in it. And the pre and probiotics, you may have to start with a half a bar. They said this isn't necessarily a protein bar because the protein's not exceptionally high, but there is protein in it from the nuts and the pea. I think there's a pea protein. They said, no, it's not a meal replacement, but I know the current bars I have as a meal, and they're only 150 calories, so I think I'll probably be using it as a meal replacement. The microbiome, there was something in here that was really cool. I was going to read it to you.
Got cocoa in it too.
Yes.
Yeah, they're tasty. I like them too. I can't wait till we get them.
Yeah, it's sweetened with date paste. So there's no added sugar. It's just from a natural date sugar. There's no artificial sweeteners in it either. It comes with pea protein crisps, and diced almonds. That's where the protein comes from. It has sunflower butter, and diced almonds are the primary source for the fat. Okay, and this is what I was going to read to you girls. This is, make a note of this or write it down. They say, think of probiotics as the seed and the prebiotic fibers as water and sunlight that helps the seed sprout and grow. So probiotics are the seeds and the prebiotics are the water and sunlight that help the seed sprout and grow. Yeah. So anyway, so that's coming out right after the Canadian Convention. So what do we do after this? So then we have one regular low glycemic meal. Again, we stay away from all breads, flour, rice, cereals, potatoes, pasta, and sugar for the next 11 weeks. And some people say, well, can't I have a little? Well, the problem is when you have a little, it will spike your blood sugars, and it could potentially start the whole craving process, which could take days to get under control. So it's really, 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 really important until you hit your goal weight to avoid these breads, flours, rice, cereals, potato, pasta. I had one woman who she had to just go completely cold turkey because as soon as she had any of these, it started off the whole roller coaster ride again. But never go hungry. If you're hungry, simply eat another low glycemic meal or snack. So that could be an apple with 6 to 10 almonds, right? It can be a boiled egg. Boiled eggs or anything with eggs really helps snuff out the appetite. It could be, if you're really hungry, have a half a chicken breast. It's better to have more protein than a carb when you're going through the first 12 weeks. Any questions on this?
One of the things that I like as a snack is I open up a can of chickpeas. And I have some chickpeas, just rinse them off and I have that. Should I be having something else with that? I mean, it's kind of like a hummus,
right.
Pretty big.
Yeah, the chickpeas have carbs and protein, so you don't really need anything else.
Okay.
Yeah, because it's like hummus. You're right. It just hasn't been ground up. Mm-hmm.
So now it's a matter of...
Do they fill you up, Adeline?
Oh, yeah.
I have a couple tablespoons, and for me, it's a snack I like.
Okay.
And that's it. And then you're satisfied after that, like when you're.
Yeah, like I said, it's a snack.
It's a snack, right? But it satisfies you.
Yeah, it does me.
Excellent.
Okay, that's good to know. I never tried the chickpea thing. I like chickpeas, but I never tried just eating them rinse them off and eat them like that.
Because hummus, I like it, but I find that once I go through the trouble of cutting up some vegetables to go with it, and then I'm just kind of like dig into the container and just get a big old glob of it. So I think I'm having a whole lot more than what probably is considered a snack level.
Well, I think that's a great idea. I haven't tried chickpeas on its own, but you know, if it's only a few tablespoons, maybe a half a cup, that's great. I think that's a great idea.
Cool.
And I like Joanne's question: is it satisfying? Do you feel satisfied?
You want a snack, but yeah.
Okay, I have a question for you, Sheila, with regards to the no bread. The sprouted wheat bread, is that also on the, do not have list, or like what is it about it that is good or bad? And that kind of bread still confuses me a little bit.
Well, like what I was going to suggest is once you get to the maintenance phase and you're maintaining your weight, add something like a sprouted wheat bread back. Sprouted wheat bread is low glycemic. It does have gluten in it. So a lot of times I recommend not having any for the first 3 months, just because people may have a gluten intolerance and not know about it. And then when they take gluten in, they could be retaining water and become inflammatory and have other health problems. What I still don't eat a lot of bread, very seldom, but when I do have, it'll be a piece of sprouted wheat bread, and I'll have it with a half of avocado, kind of mushed up on top, and then with a poached egg. And I'm combining my carbs, proteins, fats, and a good balance. So to answer your question, I would say if you really do want to lose weight, to stay away from all the grains until you hit 3 months or your goal weight.
Okay.
It just makes it simpler than to think, okay, should I or shouldn't I? It's just kind of like, just keep it really, really simple, and just, at the end of the program, and then if you want to add the whole grains back and maybe the wild rice in, and then you'll be able to read how your body's feeling too. You'll notice, it's triggering something or it's not, or you'll be able to have maybe just one small slice versus maybe two. You'll be able to monitor your own appetite and how you're feeling. Okay, so the whole goal is to eat low glycemic as best as possible for the next 3 months. Does that mean you can never have a snack that isn't? Well, I would say 80% of the time you really want to stick with this. I know some people really, really like wine, myself included, so it's kind of like Wine Friday. I had a gal who lost a lot of weight. She looked fantastic after 3 months. She just said, Friday night, I'm going to have my glass of wine, and that was her treat for the week. So she didn't feel completely deprived, and it was doable for her for a 3-month period. Okay, so exercise. So exercise is super, super important, and I'm so glad Adeline, Joanne, and Wendy, you all did your activity. So, at least 30 minutes of modest aerobic activity 5 days a week. And the nice thing is when you have like the Fitbit, I like to see, like today I was shoveling, but I wasn't into cardio training. I wasn't getting those cardio moments. So I could actually monitor. My goal is to do 40 cardio activity minutes a day, and I'm at 37. So now I'm going to say, okay, I'm going to bundle up and take the dog for a walk because I didn't hit my personal goal. So build your way up. If you have a Fitbit, you can set the goal on your Fitbit, how much you want to do. But they recommend for health to do 30 minutes of modest aerobic activity 5 days a week. Brisk walking, bike riding, swimming, hiking, cross-country skiing, shoveling snow, whatever it is, it's going to be, just to get the heart rate up. And if you don't have something like a Fitbit, do you know if you're working hard enough or too hard? If you're doing something you can't carry on a conversation, you're probably pushing it too hard. So let's say if you're running and you can't carry on a conversation, your heart rate's probably quite high. But if you're taking a stroll and you're not sweating at all or not huffing and puffing, then it's too slow. You should have to get into that zone where you can still talk, but you definitely are working out harder than you normally would. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. And the best thing you can do is that aerobic activity is the key to improving insulin and sensitivity, because more sensitive you are to your insulin, less insulin your body has to manufacture. So get moving, use up the energy in your muscle cells, deplete them, and so that they're more hungry for the insulin and the sugars. And then part 3, cellular nutrition. So why, when taking Cellsentials, how does that actually help you lose weight? Well, the Cellsentials not only does it provide you vitamins, minerals, and antioxidants, it's actually going to provide you with 6 key nutrients that are going to help you become more sensitive to insulin. That's chromium, vanadium, magnesium, selenium, vitamin E, and vitamin C. Again, if you're more sensitive to insulin, your body's going to make less insulin, and then the body's going to release the fat. Does that make sense? So taking the Cellsentials is going to help you release fat. And of course, USANA is the best, and all of you are in USANA, so you know that USANA provides the best cellular nutrition available, and the Cellsentials are definitely the best on the market. So you can either take the Cellsentials or the Health Pack. And we know here Lyle McWilliam, who's a Canadian scientist, does not work for USANA. He's done an 18-year study, and he has consistently rated the Cellsentials as the #1 multivitamin mineral combination on the market. So next week, we're going to dive into some other topics. We're going to dive into glycemic index and load a little bit, good carbs, bad carbs, proteins and fats, and portion size, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So there'll be different topics every week.
Cool.
And accountability. Now, are all of you journaling in your lifestyle journal?
That's been kind of one of my. Yeah, I know. You're looking at me. I know. There's this thing called journaling.
Adeline. Okay. How about you, Joanne?
No, where do you print the papers off?
Did I email you the journal?
No.
Oh, okay. Well, let me make a note here. Darn it. Sorry.
Yeah, you were going to do that, and I didn't get any attachment anyways. Not that I could see.
Okay. Journal, email journal. Okay, I put it in here. I'm going to send it to the whole group again. And some people got the older version, and my apologies. Okay, I will email the journal, the latest version of the journal, print it off, and use it. And the reason being, people who journal, first of all, you're becoming accountable to yourself. And when you're accountable, even just to yourself, you have to stop and think, okay, do I really want to eat this? Because if I'm going to eat this, I have to write it down. So it's going to make you much more conscious of what you're eating, and then it'll be a conscious decision if you're going to eat it, because then you have to write it down. And the beautiful part about this is that people who journal lose twice the amount of weight as people who don't. So it's important to journal. And also you're going to see trends. Okay, when am I eating too much? How was I feeling? Was I stressed? Is that why I went to the pantry and had a bag of chips or cookies or, and after I ate something with maybe gluten in it, did I feel bloated or did I feel uncomfortable? So part of the journal is not only what you ate, then you have to determine is the high glycemic, low glycemic. What did you drink? Did you exercise enough? And how are you feeling? And again, we're going to connect we're going to connect the brain to the gut and how you're feeling. So my challenge to all of you is when I email you the journal, print it and use it. So next week you can report back about your findings of journaling.
I have another question for you before I forget it, sort of like squirrel. I was going through my notes from the convention and came across the electrolyte water made with coconut water and the juice of lemons and limes and the salt. And it said to have half a cup of water every half hour. And so the first is just regular water, and then the next one is the electrolyte water. So is this just regular water with the ice cubes made from the electrolyte mix that you made, or is it completely electrolyte water? I wasn't clear on that.
I don't know. I don't remember that electrolyte water at all.
I'll text you the the picture that I took at convention.
Okay.
Which workshop was that, Adeline?
That was at convention last year. Okay, let me see if I can find it.
It
I
might
don't,
have been
re-
Stu
I
Ward.
don't recall that one either.
Yeah.
I don't recall that either.
Okay.
Yeah, so when you have a moment, then just send it, but no, I don't recall it, sorry. And again, Wendy had mentioned it, there's the Low Glycemic Meals and Minutes cookbook by Laura and Cheryl. Excellent cookbook. Highly recommend it. If you need, I have a box of them, so I have them available. I also recommend Healthy for Life, Dr. Ray Strand. That's what this whole, program is based on. And I know, Wendy, you've read the book, and did
I
you
have.
find it helpful?
That's the one I teach from, is this, my findings in this book and the research and what he found. It's excellent.
Mm-hmm. So if you want to delve deeper, I would definitely recommend ordering this from Amazon, Joanne and Adeline, and reading the book. It really will help cement the principles into your lifestyle. And that's it for today.
Okay. Thank you very much. And I'm just going through my gallery here and looking for the thing, and I will send that to you.
Great. Any other questions?
Thanks, Adeline.
Okay, I'll send it to Sheila, and then
Okay, I'll take a look and see if I can make some sense of it. Yeah. I'm just going to stop the recording.